Mel Kiper has put out his mock draft 3.0, and he's got the New Orleans Saints taking a different player than I think you think it's going to be. So in the first mock draft, Mel Kiper had the Saints taking Will Johnson, cornerback out of Michigan. The second mock draft, remember Mel does 1.0, 2.0, 3.0, whatever. The second mock draft, he had the Saints taking Tyler Warren. And now, in the third mock draft, Mel Kiper has the Saints taking Jaxson Dart, 9th overall.
They will both go in the first half of the first round. And then we get to the really interesting piece. You have Jaxson Dart making his first appearance in your mock top 10. You have him 9 to the Saints. Give me the thinking.
All right, before Mel gives us his thinking, I think this is kind of crazy. And this is the danger of mock draft season. This is the danger of the NFL draft, is that you can just kind of spray. And in the 24-hour news cycle, especially on ESPN, especially with Mel Kiper, you kind of have to keep readjusting your drafts and keep readjusting your mocks. And a lot of it is just kind of nonsense. Like, a lot of it is just whatever he's talking about today, and then it'll change next week, and then it'll change again, and how much of it's for clicks and whatnot. When I see something like this, where the mock draft database, which keeps up like basically the average of where a player's going. So Jaxson Dart, his projected round is the second round. His overall rank is 34th. He's in the first round of 11% of drafts. You can see here, like, these are all the track mock drafts, is mid-20s, 30s, whatever. And then for all of a sudden to go from not even in the first round to now you're the 9th overall pick, I think seems a little crazy. I don't think it's insane for the Saints to take Jaxson Dart. I do think it's insane to take him at 9. Dependent on how you feel about Jaxson Dart, it would make more sense, I think, if you're going to do this, to trade up, to get Shedeur, to get Cam Ward. I would assume you have a much higher grade on them. If you're going to do something like that, maybe you're in that market. The Dart thing at 9 seems like a huge reach for this team, and it doesn't really line up with what they're doing. It seems like it's a year too early. It seems like it's a year early to do this. If you draft Dart at 9, you're telling everyone, like, okay, he's the franchise quarterback. He is the guy. Very similar with Penix and Atlanta last year, where just like last year, we said this seems like it's a year too early for Penix. Like, you just brought in Kirk Cousins. Why would you bring in Penix? Why would you bring in an older quarterback? Why would you bring in someone in a situation to sit when they're more ready to play now? Like, if Atlanta drafted Penix this year, I understand he's not in the draft, but if the same thing happened this year, it would be like, man, this is perfect for Atlanta. Lines up exactly with what they want to do. This makes sense. I feel like the Saints are in that situation right now, where Dart or someone like Dart or whatever in the top 10 would make sense next year. It wouldn't make as much sense this year. So I don't like the idea of passing on Mason Graham or Tet McMillan or whoever. I mean, whoever's there. I don't like the idea of passing on them for Dart. I would take the big-time player. I would take the Jod Campbell. I would take whoever your guy is. And then I would do the Jaxson Dart type player next year. But we'll see what Mel says.
Well, first of all, last year in Mock 3.0, I had Bo Nix going to a team that he ended up taking, and the Denver Broncos. I got talked out of that in Mock 4.0. Nobody's talking me out of this one, Greeny. Jaxson Dart locked into the Saints at 9 for me right now. Think about, hey, he went west with USC to the SEC, right? Bo Nix went SEC out west to Oregon. I think when you look at Jaxson Dart, the improvement, completion percentage up every year, okay? Interceptions down, and he maintained that at 5.6. Completion percentage up every year. Touchdowns up every year. Jaxson Dart with his legs, 1,500 rushing yards the last 3 years, okay? 8 rushing touchdowns 2 years ago. That's the underrated.
I think the difference with Bo Nix is that it was a quarterback desperate team, number one, which is different than the Saints. Saints aren't quarterback desperate right now. They have Derek Carr. The Bo Nix thing, too, was a stacked quarterback class. Bo Nix was, the 6th quarterback taken, I believe. So But this is the opposite. This is not a quarterback stacked class. You've got two quarterbacks in Shedeur Sanders and Cam Ward. Cam Ward settled down a little bit now as far as like the forecasters, but we're still kind of split on if Shedeur Sanders is a top 10 pick, if he's a first round pick, what exactly he is. So in a quarterback weak class, to have the third quarterback go top 10 seems like an astronomical reach.
Part of Jaxson Dart's game. This is an NFC now, adding Jaden and Caleb, Michael Penix Jr., the division with Penix Jr., and 2 number ones overall, Baker and Bryce Young. And now you get Jaxson Dart. You got to keep up with the division, Greeny. The Saints, you get new coach, new quarterback coming in together.
A third quarterback in the top 10. Tim Hasselbeck, have you seen much of him? What do you think?
Yeah, I like him. It's interesting, the Bo Nix, comparison. Now, Bo Nix had played a lot of football. Jaxson Dart's played a good amount of football, not quite as much as Nix. I think that's, something to always be considered throughout this evaluation process. Okay, I think physically, look, he looks, moves, throws the way you want first-round quarterbacks to do that stuff. And so I think that there will be people that fall in love with the traits. And I would just say this in terms of how high up that he is with the Saints being a top, having a top 10 pick. Look, whether it's at 9 or at 17 or 23, like if you think a guy is going to be a decade-long starter for you at the quarterback position, then I don't care where it is in the first.
That part is true. And I say that with all the players. If you think a guy is an all-pro or a 10-year starter or a Hall of Famer or whatever, who cares? Take him wherever. Take him. You got to get him. If you think that guy is that good, take him first overall, whatever. The question is Jaxson Dart that good? The question is, are you so smart that you're seeing all the other forecasts, and you're seeing all the other mock drafts, and you're seeing all the other, rankings or whatever, and you see that he's in the 20s to 30s to 40s, and you're saying they're so wrong that not only is he a clear-cut first-round pick, but he is a top 10 pick. Are you at that point to where you believe, because if you do take Jaxson Dart 9th overall, all right, let's just pretend the Saints do take him 9th overall. What are the Saints saying? They're saying that Jaxson Dart is unequivocally the franchise quarterback. You do not take a quarterback top 10 to then have him compete with Spencer Rattler or compete with Jake Haener, or, well, you take Dart now and then maybe you take Nussmeier next, and then maybe they can. No, it is Jaxson Dart is your franchise quarterback. He will get a shot. He will get 1 or 2 years. Everything is pointing to him. It sends a direct message to that locker room. You have a top 10 quarterback. He is going to be expected to start sooner than later. In today's NFL, that's more than likely the first half of the season. You're sitting there thinking, well, if Derek Carr is middling or struggling at all in the middle of the season, we're switching to Dart. It accelerates your plans dramatically if you take Dart top 10. Is his grade that high? I know at one point during the Senior Bowl, he was flying up draft boards. He went into the Senior Bowl with a 5th round grade, came out of the Senior Bowl with a 3rd round grade. Quarterbacks kind of inherently get boosted up draft boards because everyone needs a quarterback. So, we expected Dart to be a 2nd rounder somewhere in there. Top 10? That's kind of crazy.
Round. It's worth it. And especially if you're the Saints who are picking all the way up there, and who knows how far you can get back before somebody sneaks in front of you, or if you can even get back at all. So I don't hate it. If you love a guy and you think that he can be that for your team, then absolutely. And I would agree with Mel in terms of the way people saw Nix, the way people, I think, looked at J.J. McCarthy in a way. I think there's going to be people that look at Jaxson Dart in a similar light.
For people who don't know much about him, he started 38 games for Lane Kiffin at Ole Miss. He threw 72 touchdowns, finished as the school's all-time leading passer, surpassing Eli Manning. What is it you are hearing about the possibility of this third quarterback going the first half of the first round.
Yeah, I mean, look, I think first round is certainly possible at this point for Jaxson Dart, and these guys do move up historically as we get closer to the draft. He threw at the combine, which not everybody does, and he impressed teams there with his willingness to do that and also the way he threw it. His traits that Mel talks about are there. Kellen Moore is the new Saints head coach. He's an offensive guy. Like, he might want to pick his quarterback. Bo Nix went to the Broncos because Sean Payton felt like this was the guy for me.
I think Kellen does want to pick his guy, but that's not really what we're talking about. Like, this is a good example of fitting a quarterback in just to fit a quarterback in. Where, yeah, I mean, Kellen Moore probably does want to pick his guy. Yeah, the Saints, do need to figure something out moving forward. Does all of that equate to Jaxson Dart at 9th overall? Because you're not just taking Jaxson Dart. You are taking Jaxson Dart over blank player. You're at 9 overall, you're taking him over some combination of McMillan or Mason Graham or Will Campbell or Jalen Walker. Like, there's someone there that you are passing over in order to take Jaxson Dart. This is not a luxury pick. This is not a second round, third round, like, well, we already got our guy in the first round. We already got our guy in the second round. We can take a developmental quarterback. No, this is taking the franchise guy. This is not the 22nd pick. This is not the 28th pick. This is a top 10 quarterback. Okay, don't forget, this is not something the Saints do, taking a quarterback in the first round. In the comments below, trivia, who was the last quarterback that the Saints took in the first round? Right? So, I'm not going to give away the answer, but it's been a while. All right. It's been a minute. So this is not something this franchise normally does. And to do this the Saints are in a interesting situation for fans going into this draft, because they could literally take every position on the field. I would not be surprised at all if they took a linebacker. I would not be surprised at all if they took an edge rusher. I would not be surprised at all if they took Ashton Genty. I would not be surprised at all if they took Ted McMillan. I would not be surprised at all if they took Tyler Warren. I wouldn't be surprised if they took Will Campbell. Every position. And now you throw in quarterback. Quarterback was the one position where I was kind of like, I think we can kind of scratch this off, because I don't think Shador or Cam will fall, and I don't think another quarterback will rise. But now we've got this. And it's kind of crazy to go into a draft as a Saints fan. I mean, we're still a little ways away, but to go into a draft where literally every position is on the table. I mean, really imagine it, ladies and gentlemen. Imagine you're sitting there on draft day watching my stream, because we'll be live streaming the entire first round just like we did last year. Imagine sitting there watching the stream, and you're like, I hope they take Tyler Warren. I hope they take Ted McMillan. And then all of a sudden, Jaxson Dart. It's like, holy God. Because if they do that, I'll say this again. I just said it 40 seconds ago. If they take Jaxson Dart that fast, that quickly, everything is out the window. All the Spencer Rattler stuff, all the Derek Carr stuff, all the old players, win now, whatever. Like, okay. We now see Jaxson Dart's the future. We're getting, like, this is what the situation is. Like, it tells you, just like the Broncos. They took Bo Nix, told you exactly what they were doing, exactly what was happening. It could be a really wild ride. Now, is Jaxson Dart a top 10 pick? Is this just Mel being Mel, or is there something to this? Has he heard something? Is it rumblings, or is it him just having a goof? We got a month to figure it out.
To run my offense. Kellen Moore feels that way about someone like Jaxson Dart, then absolutely. I don't think the Saints have taken a first-round quarterback since Archie Manning. Like, I'm dead serious. I think that's the only time they did it. So Jaxson Dart would be a departure for them, but they are going to need somebody once they move on from Derek Carr.
Mel, I'm getting notes here from our buddy Dan Orlovsky, who was watching, saying, and correctly pointing out, and he said it on this show, that he has been saying Dart in the top 10 for a while now, and that, in fact, he thinks that Dart could creep up towards the territory of QB2. And so I wanted to get your take on that, Mel, about the possibility that by the time we get 5-6 weeks from now, people could be talking about a debate between Dart and Sanders, who's going to be the second quarterback off the board?
Not out of the question. There's not. I'm not going to ever laugh at anything that's being said now because everybody's got all opinions all over the place. I will say this. Last year with Bo Nix, when I had him at 3.0, I got calls after that. People say, yeah, you got him too high. He's not a first-round guy. He's borderline. He's more of a second-round guy on our board. So, and I got talked out of it. Jaxson Dart, to me, when you look at where we are right now with the league and with the quarterbacks, and you got to keep up with your division, and Jaxson Dart's got talent. We're not forcing him up there. He's 18 on my big board right now. You look at the progression, 62%, 65%, 69% this past year, 20, 23, 29. Progression in terms of touchdowns. I said 8 rushing touchdowns 2 years ago, 1,500 rushing yards the last 3 years. That's the underrated part of this kid's game. He's tough, he's fast, he's athletic, he's aggressive, and he will attack a defense, and he will kill you on third down, man coverage. He can go for 20, 30 yards. So for Jaxson Dart, if Kellen Moore feels the way Peyton did about Nix, like Tim said, you can mark it down. If he doesn't, then he drops a little bit. Now, I will say this about Shedeur. If he slides, I did a little research. 8 sliding quarterbacks since 1970 based on my ratings and mock dress. 6 of the 8 big-time hits. 2 busts were both Notre Dame guys, Clausen and Brady Quinn. Outside that, 6 of 8 hit big. So if Shedeur does slide a little bit in the first or into the late early second, like some think, so be it. Doesn't but still would bode well for Shedeur Sanders.
I don't know. I mean, I was really surprised to see this come through. I mean, on one hand, like I said, it is Mel Kiper. It's like, what do we, they got to talk about something. I'm not going to rule it completely out because who the hell knows in mock drafts, like things happen. But this would be nuts. I mean, this would be really, really crazy stuff, I think. And where I sit right now, I would say this kind of would feel like a wasted pick in a way where, dependent on who is there, I think you are passing on some real talent to take a fly. It's a risky pick. You're passing on real studs to take Jaxson Dart here, and you got to be feeling damn good that he's a baller. If you pass on all those guys to take Jaxson Dart, and because if you're Kellen Moore, like you're drawing your line in the sand, you are lining yourself up with Jaxson Dart's success. Where the Saints are already in a pseudo rebuild, you bring in your franchise quarterback, your guy, your first ever pick as a head coach in the top 10 on a team with a million different holes, more holes than Swiss cheese, and you say Jaxson Dart's my guy, how good he is how your tenure will be. So something to monitor. Interesting. It is a sexy pick. I'll say that. I mean, a quarterback in the top 10, always sexy, but is it the right pick? I don't know. Ladies and gentlemen, let me know in the comments below. Are you surprised to see this? Do you think the Saints should entertain this? Let me know in the comments below. Thank you for watching. I will see you in the next video.